Well, hello, second graders. Listen, it's April 1st. This is not an April Fool's joke. Looking at what you're doing in math, I thought I'd come on and give you a little help with this. This is actually pretty simple stuff. You shouldn't have too much trouble figuring this out. We're talking about ways that you can display data, and one of the ways that we typically do it is by creating a line plot. And a line plot is nothing more than a line. It's defined by its values, and then you look at the data and you place the data at its appropriate spot on the line. The example that they give you in the book is you have 6 pencils, and those pencils are measured to see how long they are. And their line plot starts at 5 inches and it goes up in increments of 1 inch. And that's how you define those values, and we go all the way up to 11. And there are 6 pencils. And so they measured all the pencils, and they discovered that one was 5 inches, 2 of them were 6 inches, 3 of them measured 7 inches, there was 1 at 8 inches, none at 9, 1 at 10, and 1 at 11. That's all there is to it. This is pretty easy. Now, as I look at the lesson in your book, it starts on page 590, and the exercises that they give you, they're asking you to measure certain items. Now, hopefully you have those items. So that you can measure them and do the exercises. This was kind of a dumb way to put it. If we go to page 592, looking at problem 6 and 7. On problem 6 and 7, they give you the data. And the data is usually in the form of a table somewhere where it's been gathered and collected. Number 6, it says use the data in a list to complete a line plot. And there, they're looking at the length of ribbons. So they get the ruler out and they measure the ribbons. And those ribbons, there's 4 of them that they measured. So your data set is 6576. 6576. And that's inches. They measured the ribbon, and that's what they came up with. They had 4 pieces of ribbon. So now you look at the numbers, build your line. We don't need all the way to 11. We only go as high as 7 in this data set, but it's okay. We can still use this. Just go right down through the data. There's a 6, so make an X above the 6. The next one is a 5, so make an X above the 5. Next number is 7. Put an X above the 7, and then the last number is 6. You come back over and put an X above the 6. And that's what it looks like. See how simple this is? If we look at problem number 7, looking at that data set, they're measuring leaves. They measured the length of leaves. And looking at the data set, I always like to look at, well, what's the smallest number? What's the biggest number? And the smallest number I see there is 3. The biggest number I see is 6. So you can build your line. The smallest number is 3. So you build your line to include the smallest number and the biggest number. So you've got 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now there are 7 different measurements. They measured 7 leaves. So looking at it, the first one is a 4, so put an X above the 4. Next one is a 5, put an X above the 5. Next one's a 3, put an X above the 3. And we got another 4. And then we got a 6. Another 4. And a 5. And what that does is it builds a little diagram where they can look at it, and this is the length of leaves in inches. You always want to remember what unit of measure you're working with so that you can label things properly. So we measure the length in inches of these leaves, and we've got one that's 3 inches, 3 of them that are 4 inches, 2 that are 5 inches, and 1 that is 6. Now, one of the reasons why you build a dot plot like this is you can look at it and say, what size of leaf occurs most often, most frequently? And you can look right at that and say, well, gee whiz, that appears to be 4 inches because of all the leaves they measured, the largest number of leaves were 4 inches. So that's one of the reasons why we build a dot plot. Just makes it easier to look at and understand the data that you're given. Now, your homework's on 593 and 594. You got a little spiral review on 594. And it looks like in the spiral review, you're doing some estimating. It mostly has to do with measuring. Hopefully that is something that you're pretty secure with. Some adding of numbers together. And I see that you're getting real close to the the unit test, the Chapter 8's unit test. And that might be something you want to take a look at. Just glancing at it here, I see that a lot of it has to do with measurement. You've been learning about measuring things using a ruler, understanding how a ruler works. See my ruler here? And how each inch on this ruler, each number represents 1 inch, and it can be broken down into smaller fractions of that inch. In this case, it's broken into 1/4 inches, or 4 divisions within inside each inch. But you know, with a ruler, you want to measure something, you start at the end of the ruler where it is 0. And if I was to measure the word grade, it would be 8 1/4 inches. I come down the scale, I see 8 here, and then it's 1/4 of an inch bigger than 8 inches. So it'd be 8 1/4 inches. So that's how you use the ruler. I'm guessing you guys are pretty good at that. Anyhow, that's your little help for today. Doing line plots. They're, like I said, pretty simple. I think you can do it. You guys have a good day. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you again soon.